Welcome, everyone, to the Township of North Frontenac's regular council meeting for Thursday, July the 9th, 2026. Please be advised, North Frontenac council meetings are recorded. By attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Members of council, staff, delegates, and attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior or comments. So we follow that up with our traditional land acknowledgement. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating these traditional lands as a gathering place of the first peoples and their ancestors who are entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the indigenous people who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the Township of North Frontenac is committed to working with indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation. Item 3, approval of the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Hodge, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be resolved that council approves the agenda dated July 9th, 2026 as circulated.
Comments, Corey?
Yeah, I'd just like to request that 11K be 11K, which is been report from Manchester Community Development Build Community Strong Fund. I'd like to request that report be removed from the agenda at this time.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, so the resolution will be amended to delete item 11K. In favor of the amended resolution? Resolution's carried, and we have a revised agenda. All right, folks. Okay. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, we have no business profiles. So the next one is presentations, item 6A. We have Tyler Lalonde, the CAO, and Justin Bromberg, the administrative coordinator for Frontenac Municipal Services with us. Come on up, gentlemen. And welcome. Floor is yours.
Right. Well, good evening, Mayor Litchie and members of council. My name is Tyler Lalonde, Administrative Coordinator with Frontenac Municipal Services. I'm joined by Justin Bromberg, Chief Executive Officer. And I would just like to thank you for the opportunity this evening to provide an update. Before we begin, I just would like to, I guess, briefly introduce Frontenac Municipal Services if you're not familiar with us and the work that we've been doing. So we are a publicly owned municipal service corporation responsible for the planning, management, and future operation of communal water and wastewater systems across Frontenac County. And North Frontenac, along with the 3 other townships, and then as well as the County of Frontenac, are shareholders of the corporation. And the communal services are simply just right-sized water and wastewater. It's an advanced treatment technology that aims to fit into the fabric of our rural communities and aim to promote sustainable growth. So we were here last year, and our presentation really focused on introducing Frontenac Municipal Services and who we are, why we were created, and the opportunities communal servicing can create for our rural communities. But this year we wanted to shift gears and provide more of a concrete update on the work that's being completed, especially over the last 12 months, where we're focusing our efforts and where we see opportunities moving forward. We'll also spend a few minutes highlighting work that is particularly relevant to North Frontenac, including some of the technical work that's been completed to better understand communal servicing solutions for our smaller rural communities. So tonight, we'll provide a brief update of, as I mentioned, the progress of FMS over the last year, some of our current technical and governance work, provincial engagement and advocacy efforts, some of the partnerships and outreach activities that we've undertaken, and then finally, provide some updates specific to North Frontenac and then some of the work that we've been doing. So over the last 12 months, Frontenac Municipal Services, we've transitioned from really the organizational setup to now active framework development. Looking at the governance side, we've worked at expanding our technical support committee, establishing utility bylaws. As you know, this is a new framework for the municipalities of your water use and sewer use bylaws and how those are governed and administered. So those have been ongoing. And we're continuing to work on our utility frameworks and those bylaws. Looking at the technical and operations, we've advanced work on, outlining preferred technologies that are approved by the Ministry of the Environment. Looking at really a short list, which further ties to a larger deliverable that we've been looking at, which is a developer design guidelines. Because really the goal for Frontenac Municipal Services is that, a developer may come in and will ultimately build these systems, and then FMS will assume the ownership of these systems. And when you look at that, there's risks associated with taking on these systems. So really our goal up front is to set those standards, have those frameworks in place, and that's something that we've been working on with our licensed operator. We've been working with a licensed operator, Clearford Waterworks, since 2025, and they have been instrumental as they've been operating these systems for 30 years in establishing these guidelines so that when a developer does come in, that it's very clear in the standards that are being set, it going right down to the specifics of the sizes of pipes and the materials that are used, and really trying to streamline that. We're also looking at life cycle planning, cost modeling, and risk, of course, and management of risk is a very key piece as well. And then Justin will speak to this, but provincially we've really worked at increasing our engagement with both Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, as well as the Ministry of Housing. So we've participated in some consultations and really have been following some of the initiatives, including Bill 98 that was recently received royal assent, which had direct language of supporting communal services and how that can support rural communities. And we're also continuing to build partnerships and expand our outreach across the municipal and development sectors. This communal services is not new, but it is quite new for Ontario. So there's really an educational piece that we have to, we feel a duty to provide and working with developers as they walk through this new process. And then of course with our shareholder municipalities as well. Now I'll pass it off to Justin Bromberg for.
Good evening, members of council. Thank you again for the opportunity to present this evening. This is, in my view, one of the more interesting aspects of the work that we're doing, certainly at the current stage, is the engagement and somewhat of a leadership role, you might say, with in advocating and discussing quite closely with the provincial government. As Tyler mentioned, where there's been a regular ongoing engagement with both MECP, the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, and MMAH, which is the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, for quite some time. And those discussions have transitioned from, I would say, more of a information sharing nature to discussing quite in some greater depth, some meaningful next steps and meaningful projects. And again, as Tyler's mentioned, the province has taken an active interest, especially in these last few months, with the passage of Bill 98 in municipal service corporations and in communal services as a means of increasing housing development, specifically in rural areas. And so, whereas in my view, we were looking to get the province's attention in perhaps some of those earlier discussions. It now seems that that there's an active interest at the provincial level to engage with us and to learn from the lessons that we have gone through in the experience that we've undertaken in whether it be in creating the MSC and in doing a lot of the research that we've done and continue to do around communal services. We have participated in discussions related to Bill 9A. We continue to participate in discussions with them. We're also advancing some proposals, around potential pilot projects that have, generated quite a bit of interest with both ministries for Frontenac County, recognizing that Frontenac County in many respects is a pioneer when it comes to municipal service corporations and communal services. These are relatively unfamiliar processes from an Ontario lens. And so there really is an interesting opportunity here for Frontenac as it's quite well positioned to offer a lot of insight and guidance for the rest of the province, especially rural Ontario, on how to implement and maintain and advise when it comes to MSCs and communal systems. There is that increasing recognition provincially that rural communities require more servicing options. The cost of traditional municipal services is quite high and is continuing to increase. Both ministries have readily stated that the funds are simply not available or less and less available to implement or build that traditional municipal water and wastewater infrastructure. And so whereas private wells and septic systems, of course, can be limiting when you look at even modest amounts of growth in villages and hamlets. So while there's still work to do, we are encouraged by the direction of these conversations, and we continue to advocate for approaches that support small municipalities, small and rural municipalities, and rural development.
Just from a communications perspective, so as I mentioned, there's that learning piece with communal services and our duty to educate, but a very important role as well for us has been building relationships and just, as I mentioned, raising awareness of the work that we're doing. So over this past year, we've completed a communications and advocacy plan to help guide a lot of our outreach efforts and look at really having meaningful engagement. We've also launched the Frontenac Municipal Services websites and public information resources to improve transparency and, of course, provide accessible information for residents, municipalities, and our project proponents. We've also presented at conferences. That's been a big piece, looking at the Ontario On-Site Wastewater Association, Ontario East Municipal Conference, and as well participating in the Eastern Ontario Housing Summit, and as well as continuing engagement with the home builder associations across Kingston, Ottawa, and Quinte. Also on June 16th, we hosted a Frontenac Municipal Services information session, and really appreciate the staff and council that were able to attend. And the goal with this session was to bring together staff, councilors, industry partners, and to discuss communal servicing and the work underway across Frontenac County. And of course, answer questions. And now I'll pass it back to Justin to speak to North Frontenac.
And just before I move to this next slide, I think it's as part of that communications and advocacy outreach and educational awareness, if you will. It is worth mentioning that more and more frequently, Frontenac Municipal Services and the County of Frontenac is being contacted by neighboring municipalities interested in what Frontenac Municipal Services is doing. I didn't mention earlier, but the province, as part of their ongoing efforts to explore municipal services corporations, has now published an open expression of interest, seeking municipalities that are interested in creating municipal service corporations like Frontenac for water and wastewater services. And so in tandem with that, not only is the province interested in learning from our experiences, but we are hearing from neighboring municipalities in regions and counties such as Lanark, Leeds and Grenville, Northumberland, Halliburton interested in the experience and the steps that it's taken, Frontenac and its townships to get to where it has gotten, and recognizing that there is an immense amount of work and collaboration and partnership required in creating a municipal services corporation. And there are many steps that are not necessarily, given that this is in many respects uncharted waters, there are a lot of these, the mechanisms or the processes or procedures have not been written before. Things like water and sewer bylaws, managing those from an MSC perspective. And so I just feel it is important to highlight. We often ask, why are we doing what we're doing? And of course, it is to bring sustainable small scale development to Frontenac and its townships, but it also really is laying out a model and an example for the rest of rural Ontario to follow. And we are seeing that now in action, where the proverbial knocking at the door is happening more and more frequently. So while we do have some projects, and you may be familiar with the Verona housing project in South Frontenac, and that has been in many respects the model, the flagship project for FMS to have its focus on. We have also recognized that communities like North Frontenac are looking at different types of development opportunities. And while those may not come in the form of large subdivisions, future projects will also involve small clusters of homes within existing villages and hamlets. So one of the priorities identified by our board and our technical support committee was to better understand communal servicing solutions for small scale developments. Working along Clearford Waterworks, which is one of our potential future licensed operators, and our technical support committee, we have completed a small systems report to evaluate practical servicing approaches that would support communities like North Frontenac. That work means that if opportunities do emerge in the future, much of the technical groundwork will have already been completed. When I say small communal systems, we're talking anywhere from 5 to 30 homes. And for context, Frontenac Municipal Services and its board does recognize that the development that we would be seeing in Frontenac would all be considered, if we're looking across the province at a relatively small scale. The Verona project is just over 90 homes. And that is a mixed use of townhomes and apartment units. And so we're very conscious and aware of the need to respect the existing community fabric that exists and the realities and the boundaries that we operate within. So we're not looking to do any large scale development by any stretch of the imagination. And we do want development that's very harmonious with the existing community fabric in across the county. Just a brief overview of some of the treatment options that exist for small systems. So under the Ontario Building Code, one single detached dwelling, which is typically 3 bedrooms, is assumed to generate 1,600 liters a day of water usage. A modest 10-home development would therefore generate approximately 16,000 liters a day, exceeding the 10,000 liter a day threshold for the ministry's environmental compliance approval. As development grows, traditional septic systems may no longer be the most appropriate servicing solution, and FMS has therefore evaluated communal treatment technologies that can support smaller rural developments while continuing to meet those provincial regulatory requirements. So a few treatment options. For a single home, you're looking at the typical flow of 1.6 cubic meters a day, and that would fall just under the Ontario Building Code. You might see a septic or a leaching bed. When you're moving towards 5 to 6 homes, of course, all of those numbers increase, and you're beginning to move towards the limits of where an environmental compliance assessment is required. Systems there may still include septic, but also biofilter systems. As you move towards 7 to 20 homes, you're then engaging with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, where that ECA is required. And then some of those systems that the proponent or a developer may wish to start looking at is that membrane biofilter technology. And then, of course, as you move into 25 to 30 homes, it's still that same. You'd still be using the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks as your regulatory authority, and then you're looking at perhaps some slightly more advanced systems. And on the next slide here, you see some examples of those. Septic tank and treatment tank, area bed dispersal system down in the bottom left. Believe This up in the top left is the EcoFlow system. And these are all systems that can be considered when we say communal systems. It doesn't have to be a specific type of technology. It doesn't have to be a large scale communal system. You may have heard of Nuterra, for example, based in Brockville, as one of the companies that offers communal services. Now those types of systems don't necessarily, it's not a one size fits all or a one type of system fits all. There are many types of communal systems, and when we speak about communal, we're just looking at options that can service several homes, whether that is 5 or 6 homes, whether that's 20 or 30 homes, or whether that's 80 to 90 homes. So this slide is really just to illustrate that the variety of different systems that could fall under the umbrella of communal systems that could be serviced or that FMS could provide future services to. So in terms of current priorities and next steps, looking ahead, FMS will continue advancing the governance, operational, financial frameworks needed to support communal servicing across Frontenac County. As I mentioned, we're continuing to engage with provincial ministries, more and more as well on the federal side, as well as industry partners and developers as conversations around communal servicing continue to evolve. The momentum that we are seeing provincially is quite encouraging. We believe there is growing recognition that communal servicing has an important role to play in supporting housing in rural Ontario. Our focus truly does remain on positioning both FMS and Frontenac County and its townships as leaders in that sphere, communal servicing and MSCs, while continuing to support all of our shareholder municipalities and local project and project proponents through early servicing discussions as opportunities emerge. In North Frontenac, we've intentionally invested in work that supports smaller rural communities, including that small systems report that I mentioned earlier, and some of the technical guidance that we're exploring that I referenced in the last few slides. We hope that this demonstrates that FMS is building the expertise and tools needed to support all of the townships should communal servicing ever be considered or required in the future. As I mentioned, the Verona project is very much on our radar, and they expect to break ground in the coming months. There are also other projects such as the one at the Charlotte Lake School site in Central Frontenac that the council in Central Frontenac is taking some steps on moving forward. FMS is always looking to be in a supporting role and when it comes to future servicing as much as possible as those projects move towards implementation. And so while Verona will be the first communal system to be owned and operated by FMS, it will also provide valuable experience and help shape those future projects across the county. Although this work is ambitious and takes time, we are confident the foundation being built today will create long-term opportunities for sustainable housing and growth across all of our municipalities. We'd be happy to take any comments or questions at this time. And again, thank you for the opportunity this evening.
So first of all, thank you for coming and doing that. This all started with one question. Where's Frontenac County going to be in 50 to 100 years? And out of that came a basic conclusion that we can't keep doing what we've been doing. We have to rewrite the narrative. And we believe that this system, this methodology is the way to go. So does anybody have any questions? Councillor Fowler, then Councillor Hermer.
And just a couple questions. Is your corporation set up like a not-for-profit?
It's thank you for the question through you, your worship. The corporation is set up as it's a municipal services corporations do fall under the Municipal Act. So it's not a not-for-profit corporation. It's under the Business Corporations Act. Although the understanding is that any of the eventual revenues that are generated would be invested back into the corporation to help support additional systems as those come online.
One more question. When a developer approaches you, what is the structure as far as financial when you're dealing with these people?
Thank you for the question. The mechanism and the vision that we have for these systems is as any developer looking to develop homes or housing projects anywhere, when they would look to use the servicing that is available. So FMS is offering itself, again, in collaboration with the townships, as a potential servicing model. Now it could be that, and I know through the county official plan and a lot of the changes that are happening in that respect, there is a push to at least raise awareness of communal services as an option for future development. That doesn't mean that septic and well do not, cease to exist. Those are still viable options, but it opens up a new possibility. So it's a conversation that can be had with a developer looking to, build anything from 6 units or more. The way that FMS envisions this is our eventual role will be as the utility. So we would be the one providing the services and the guidance and having that licensed operator operating those systems and providing those services to future residents benefiting from those services. The developer would be the one responsible for installing and purchasing and installing that communal systems and communal services infrastructure as part of the development. And the presumption is that the future sale or rental of those units, the developer makes their investment back from the sale or rental of those units. So the investment itself is the upfront capital investment is not assumed by the utility. Rather, the utility takes an operating role in providing those services and the upkeep and maintenance of those systems.
Mr. Hermer?
Yeah, could you explain the financial frameworks that you'll require to support the long-term effect of this?
Thank you for the question through you, Your Worship. We are still in the process of exploring a lot of those financial frameworks. Now it is no secret that the more systems that come online, the healthier that the corporation and the utility will have for its reserves. We're very eager to see the lessons learned from the Verona project, and the liability piece and the financial risk piece is in large part assumed through the Municipal Services Corporation and having the corporation in place and having the 5 shareholders in place, as opposed to the financial risk being taken on by one municipality or one county, as it may be. So as those systems come online, the utility will be generating revenues from the services provided, the water and sewer services provided, and some of those funds will be used to build reserves that we will then use to support additional systems as they come online. It is certainly something that will take time to build, and we're still doing a lot of the work to lay out to understand better about the utility rates, what's the word I'm looking for? The financial modeling, if you will, for a lot of these systems. And we're very conscious of having rates that respect ratepayers' capacity to pay, but also ensuring that the long-term financial viability of the corporation and the utilities remains intact.
Well, just to follow up to that, if you say you're taking over ownership of the Verona project, is that correct?
Not of the project. We would just be assuming the asset, the actual water and wastewater system. So the asset would belong to the Municipal Service Corporation, and then maintenance and operation of that system would be done by FMS, but not the housing portion itself. That as it is now, the housing would be the townships, and they're in the process of creating a Municipal Service Corporation to manage the housing portion of that project.
Councilor Inglis?
My understanding is that in return for the townships, $90,000 or $100,000 investment, $87,000 investment in one chairs, what we get is the ability for a private developer to come in and not have to pay for the water sewage infrastructure and provide the local township with an in-kind financial security for that thing. Is that basically the model that we're buying an increased incentive for a private developer? Is that basically what this is all about?
Through you, Your Worship, I think I would say that there are many advantages of being part of the Municipal Service Corporation. I think it does open up opportunities for FMS for one to provide its support and expertise as it may be pertinent or relevant and required, as you mentioned, to any future interested developer. One thing that having the Municipal Service Corporation does is that it again, that liability and risk piece is now pooled as under the MSC, as opposed to a developer having to sign a municipal responsibility agreement with the local municipality. The developer would then be entering into a municipal responsibility agreement with the MSC. And what has happened elsewhere in Ontario is that if a developer fails to complete the project or fails to continue supporting or maintaining the system, by default through that municipal responsibility agreement, the responsibility then gets transferred to the municipality. Whereas in this case, it would be transferred to the Municipal Service Corporation. And so the municipality would not be liable for having to assume the maintenance and cost of inheriting that system that it may not desire to inherit in the event of a default on the developer's part. And so there is that security and risk assumption that the Municipal Service Corporation FMS would take on.
Deputy Mayor Hood.
Thank you, Tyler and Justin, for your presentation. This is something that I was, in favor before, and I'm still in favor now. I think this is something that's really needed. A couple of comments and maybe a question. Just wondering, you're advocating for with the ministry about increasing the approvals of EAs and ECAs, and that how is that going? Have you got any leverage there?
Thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor, and through you, Your Worship. I would, I am optimistic. I mean, and I think one does have to be, to be, in a role where, as I mentioned before, is sort of we're laying, we believe, a lot of the foundational pieces for what future development will look like in rural parts of Ontario. The conversations with the ministry have improved. There's been more of an interest where I would say in transparency that at first it did feel that we were introducing a new concept in many respects to the ministry staff. There's a greater recognition of the potential of these systems, I think, because of the efforts of provincial politicians, and with the passage of Bill 98 now having achieved royal assent, and with the province having a mandate to actively look at communal systems for development, there's now been more of an open door to exploring what these systems look like. And it's worth noting, we've had this in previous slides and other presentations, but these systems are widely used. Communal systems are quite widely used across globally. Quite surprisingly, it may come to some in the United States, where it's not unfamiliar for small communities to use communal systems and communal services for small scale development. It's less so familiar in a Canadian and specifically Ontario landscape. But these systems have been around for many, many years. The technology is there. And I think there's a growing recognition of that. And some of the conversations that we've had more recently with the minister's office at MECP and MMH have also been quite encouraging, where I think I referenced some pilot projects earlier, and I do believe that we positioned ourselves well because of the investment that we're able to have done to date, and that is thanks to the shareholders, including North Frontenac, that have invested in this project. There is going to be a return on that investment from the provincial and federal governments in looking at Frontenac as being a model for all of Ontario.
And I know John Jordan has been very like he's really helping us get this issue. The other two things, and you may not have the answers yet. I mean, utility rates. So I always wonder if we, at one point we get a development here in North Frontenac, we have 20 houses over on the east side and 10 houses over on the west side. Are those utility rates going to be the same for both developments? And you may not know that yet.
We don't have the answer to that, but it is something that's very top of mind. Clearford Waterworks, who is our consultant on a lot of the technical work, is helping us through that. We, again, as I think I mentioned earlier, that we're very conscious of the need to keep those rates consistent across the county. What we certainly don't want is a disparity between rates between North Frontenac and South Frontenac, for example, and recognizing that there will inevitably be variances in the cost of operating those systems. If you have 20 homes versus 80 homes, but there are also different types of systems. So there's a scalability with those types of systems, whereas you may not require the same type of system and the same cost of a system for an 80-unit development as you would for a 15 or 20-unit development. And so we do believe that our goal is to achieve a uniform rate or close to a uniform rate across the county. And we're also going to look at the neighboring jurisdictions and places where there are municipal utilities in place, what those rates are like, and to keep those within relative harmony comparatively.
And just one last question. You had mentioned, Justin, about Lanark County interested in this. Why wouldn't Frontenac Municipal Services just take that on instead of them creating another utility?
It is I think it's premature, with all due respect. I think it's a very valid question. And I don't want to speak for the board of directors, but the board does feel that, and I think the shareholders as a whole feel that we do first and foremost want this to be a project for Frontenac County. The investment has come, and perhaps not the blood, sweat, and tears, but certainly the time and money has come from Frontenac and Frontenac area, and so we do want to keep our focus in Frontenac. At the same time, there is as I mentioned, there's a growing interest, and I do think a time may come where Frontenac Municipal Services will be approached more frequently, and not only for out of curiosity, but with seeking membership in Frontenac, because there may be some municipalities who are not interested in going down the route and spending the 10 years that Frontenac has taken to get to where it's gotten. So although it is too soon to say, I do think that there will come a time perhaps where Frontenac will have to consider whether it opens or how it can facilitate those servicing options in neighboring municipalities.
Mike,
Thank you, Justin, for this report, and Tyler. Roy asked all the questions. I still have two, actually. There are not currently any developments being considered in North Frontenac, correct? As you mentioned, so in your with FMC. So hypothetical question, let's say there is a development and it's being undertaken. What is the risk on us as a township if this hypothetical project underperforms or required unplanned capital expense? What is the risk on the township?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. The liability and a lot of that financial agreement would be with the developer would be assumed by at least as it pertains to the water and wastewater capital assets would be undertaken with the Municipal Service Corporation. So the municipality would be shielded in that sense, because it would that portion of the asset and that financial piece would be assumed and handled by the Municipal Service Corporation. As for the housing itself, presumably that the goal, the way we envision this, is that the developer installs the infrastructure in the ground, or above ground, as it may be in some cases. Installs in consultation with us. It's also important to mention that the county's planning department is offered its full support as required in engaging in a lot of those discussions. So we have all the planning expertise required and making sure that the system is appropriate for the type of development that the developer is looking to undergo. So once the infrastructure is in place, we like to say that we allow the developers to do what they do best, which is to build homes or build apartments, as it were, and have the utility assume the water and wastewater infrastructure and the management and maintenance of that infrastructure, so that there are no issues with the developer operating infrastructure and then increasing that risk or that liability for the municipality or the Municipal Service Corporation, as it were. So where Ontario has seen issues in the past with risk around the operation of these systems is where they've been privately managed. And what we're suggesting in the model that we're proposing is to have a licensed operator in place under the utility umbrella, which would ensure that there's a licensed operator in place with expertise and experience to maintain and operate those systems.
One more question. You mentioned Bill 98 in your report. Would that have any adverse effects on the way that the corporation is currently functioning or any of the structure or voting or shareholder arrangement? Would there be any impact?
Thank you for the question. At this time, we're not aware of any impacts. We have asked those questions and we believe that as a municipal service corporation that's already in place and already established with its shareholders in place, that that structure is protected. Our understanding is that the province is actively seeking the creation and the interest in municipal service corporations. But given that Frontenac has its municipal service corporation in place, I think perhaps on the contrary, the province is looking to learn and get a better understanding of what Frontenac has done and how the governance structure of our service corporation. But at this time, there's no concerns or risks that we're aware of for FMS.
Thank you.
Good.
Yes, you said you thought to try to have unity between the Frontenacs as far as the costing goes. This is more of a statement, I guess, than a question. I don't see how that could happen. There's like South Frontenac is more farmland where we're granite. So it's pretty hard to build something on granite, especially this here type as to what would be South Frontenac or, for filtration and unless you can come up with a better thought than what I have.
And I'll thank you for the comment and from you, your worship. There is certainly there is that, and I think a lot of the site specific analysis is still underway. So perhaps in a future update, or actually I shouldn't say perhaps, in a future update we will have more clarity around what the water and sewer rates will look like. I think perhaps some of the considerations, and certainly with respect to the farmland versus the granite considerations, that may certainly create some challenges or considerations around the actual building of the housing units. These systems, the water and sewer or the water and wastewater infrastructure, if there is a viable and water intake nearby, and I do believe that North Frontenac is generously surrounded by water. And as long as there is a appropriate area for discharge of that wastewater, then these systems can be adapted regardless of the landscape. And it doesn't mean that the same system, as I mentioned earlier, that would fit a larger size development doesn't need to be. It doesn't. As an example, hypothetically speaking, if a system that's being put in place in South Frontenac costs $2 million, it wouldn't necessarily be that same system that would need to be installed for a development in North Frontenac. There are various models that are available that are much more cost efficient, that are much more appropriate, that would provide the same environmental treatment and protect the water quality and the wastewater treatment that at a fraction of the cost of a larger system. So fortunately, there are a variety of systems available to keep those costs relative, depending on whether you're looking for 100-unit development perhaps in farmland versus a 15 or 20 unit development in granite.
Hey, Council, usually only allow 10 minutes, but we've gone well beyond. So thank you, gentlemen, for coming. You're welcome to stay for the council meeting, or I know you're busy tomorrow, so you can leave if you wish. It's up to you. Once again, thank you for coming.
Thank you again.
Moved by Councillor Hodge, second by Councillor Fowler. Be resolved, the council receives for information the presentation from Tyler Lalonde, Administrative Coordinator, and Justin Brauber, Chief Executive Officer at Frontenac Municipal Services, entitled 2026 Shareholder Update, and thanks them for the time spent today.
In favor? Carried. Okay, next item is item 7. Ms. Kelly Willis wants to speak about the Robertsville site. Ms. Willis? Welcome.
Is that okay? Okay. I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you today. Just to introduce myself, I'm a vocational teacher with the Peel District School Board secondary panel. And I've been a resident here as a seasonal resident, as you would describe us, Mayor, for over 60 years. Maybe a little bit of background. So the Robertsville site has been up for sale for a number of years. It actually had a petition to stop the extraction of uranium at one point in time. And I noticed recently it's still on for land for sale. So I just wanted to speak about that with regards to land opportunities here in North Frontenac. So it's the recommendation of this delegation that North Frontenac keep the believed to be tainted site as a housing and development initiative for future economic growth. You why use this? So with real estate, it's all about location, location, location. Let's take a look at some of the advantages that the Robertsville site actually has. Right across the road, 509, there's a paramedic station, which is a great deal of an advantage for us if we're looking for additional medical aid here. There's open crown land on the northwest side of the site as well, which leads to people wanting to do hunting and fishing, which is kind of a recreational opportunity here in North Frontenac. On the west side of it, there's a road allowance that's unopened, which allows for future expansion later on. Central Frontenac is to the south side of this Robertsville site, and 3 kilometers away is the Ardoch Road intersection. So that provides us with a lot of flexibility with regards to different locations and access. There here in North Frontenac, we have access to the Land of Lake services and communities. So people who come can actually, if we were using the land, can access those facilities quite easily. Part of the land has already been developed, so it provides direct access to Hydro One as well already. Lots of development perspectives, opportunities, and economic viability for the township if the 53 acres is retained. Here's some possibilities that I thought might be good for us. Medical service facilities. So it would support the paramedic station right across the road from it. You could have independent service providers, offices and housing for training and possible future location. I know that they're looking for facilities to improve paramedic training, so that we might be able to host something with regards to teaching there. And then, of course, medical clinic with businesses such as eye care for prescriptions, specialized facilities to support current services in North Frontenac, or in just in the north. Sorry, because I do feel as though it's important to look at those aspects that we don't have right now available to us. A second consideration might be a campground and an RV community. I think this was brought up during a housing advisory task force by Councillor Inglis, which I thought was kind of interesting. We know that North Frontenac parks are booked, 80% of them are booked within the first week of November when registration begins. Recently, the cost of gas has soared and many campers, RV community campers, find that they were spending most of their time in Ontario, as reported by CP24, May 26, 2026. So campers and tents can use the surrounding area for recreation, like the Crown Land at the border of the site. Camping sessions can be arranged. These can be done either, during all 4 seasons, basically. Close proximity to lakes and beaches for recreation of their choice. And of course, we do have a lot of trails here, so that would be an excellent opportunity. Another consideration might be senior independent living. A lot of our population here in North Frontenac are seniors. So that would give us an opportunity for them to move but still be in the area, which there's a reason why they're staying here, is for the love of the land. So this business venture will be developed independently, but the land is owned by the township. Cornerstone could be one building and with all the amenities. I know that there's quite a few of those that are existing nowadays. It can include external homes for expansion and create a services corner for surrounding community. Communal services, which we've just been talked about, the new terrace system. It does provide filtration of uranium. It provides many different water and water salute possibilities, which also include an expansion. This will allow us to heal the land by enhancing the natural water filtration. The Robertsville site area is under the jurisdiction of North Frontenac. The land was abandoned, and it must be cleaned. Ontario government's looking at the Ring of Fire, which will harm even more of our environment. North Frontenac could take the initiative and cleanse the area if it is determined after the environmental study has been performed by using the new terrace system to support the natural filtration system that exists on the Robertsville site property. Some of the benefits. New Terra in the Robertsville site. This will be an initial response for much needed fresh water demand in North Frontenac. The drought in 2025 left many individuals without water and required the township office to restrict access to the residents because of the limited water resources. If we make a natural water system that will heal the harm done by the extraction, it will complement the natural swamp drainage. This facility can actually be expanded upon and provide lots of economic opportunity. So you can consider the location for vendor trade shows and celebrations. So these are nice activities that are formal to North Frontenac. Newly developed hamlet or a village opportunity, or we can consider it as a business hub. This can be used as an opportunity, as Frontenac Municipal Services has indicated. There's technological training that's required for this equipment. So that would provide us with opportunities to introduce technology within the North Frontenac and provide training for within the community. And that will provide for economic growth as well. You would have an influx of residents, which will boost the housing demand. Next point, environmental cleansing. The land was saved, as far as I'm concerned, by an Indigenous and community protest and can be a viable part of North Frontenac's continued development, but the township must take the risk. Perform the environmental assessment, determine a plan for establishing a vital use to enhance and provide for constituents. The government provided the license and will provide a license for the Ring of Fire development, which contains 10 sought after chemicals. Canada needs to know that we can recover our freshwater system from the hazards of extraction, excavation. Let North Frontenac be the initiators of this investigation and provide clean water for all community members. Kelly Pender stated during his presentation on April the 20th, 2026, that funding is 1/3 municipality, plus 1/3 provincial, plus 1/3 federal. North Frontenac can request financial assistance for what the township residents need, which is demonstrated through the burden initiated from the extraction of hazardous chemicals for financial gain. The government needs to take responsibility for the decisions made and make the situation whole again. It's an excellent opportunity for North Frontenac Township to be a leader in providing what is necessary instead of what the provincial and federal government wants to provide. This endeavor will fulfill through legislative acts, Environmental Protection Act by cleansing the environment, and the Safe Water Act by ensuring those who have difficulty in the area with their wells or accessing clean water have a facility to ensure that they have drinking water as mandated by the ministry. And I've included images for the chemicals that are going to be extracted at the Ring of Fire. Okay, so Robertsville book value. It has 53 acres. Its assessed value is $344,000. Currently, the township is asking for a minimum tender of $210,000, $782.13. It was listed at $316,737.79. As is, for the 53 acres, the value would be $3,977 an acre. In a conversation with you, Mr. Mayor, you had mentioned that there was a piece of property quoted to be an acre, quoted within Myers Cave region to be $25,000 an acre, just as a general value. If you use that value, then you would only be able to get 8 acres for it. I approximated $10,000. There's actually an acreage right across the way from me. Its impact value is $11,000. The $10,000 isn't that bad a price. It's a natural hazard area and you can't build on it, and it is 1 acre. So that would allow you to get 21 acres. So if you had the 53 acres and you were purchasing it at $25,000, that would be $1,325,000. If you purchased it at $10,000, it'd be $530,000. So the 53 acres, if we're looking at the price of a shore allowance purchase through the municipality, that's 55 cents a square foot. So that would be $1,269,774. So realistically, if you keep it, you save $1 million. So what I'm requesting is that the Robertsville site is 53 acre parcel of land that provides the next session of the HAPLA, or Housing Advisory Task Force, a place to begin planning. It is requested that this municipal body move forward with the environmental testing and ensure that North Frontenac Township supports the local aquifers natural filtration process. Constituents are impacted by the loss of control of their healthy natural environment. Any contamination in the area impacts their wells and flows to unexpected landowners who may pay with their life. One of the things that I wanted to say was that I did speak with one of the constituents in the area, and he had a strong opinion about any water that came from that environment, that he wouldn't want to drink it because of the uranium contamination. But because Nuterra actually allows for a cleaner filtration, the water would be cleansed. And I know that there's some people on the panel who feel as though they don't want to keep the site, but you have to realize that This is the responsibility of North Frontenac Township, and I feel as though we should take that initiative and take care of it for the well-being of the environment as well as yourself. Something else that I wanted to mention was there's a piece of property that's also for sale. It's at Shiner Road and Road 509. It's a very small parcel of land. I think we're asking $20,000 for it. It's right next to the KMP trail. And I noticed recently that at the Clarendon Miller site hall, there's a really nice structure that has to do with the a memorial for Remembrance Day. And I see people stop and park there, not just to use the Wi-Fi, but also to just take a breath. So I thought that this might be a nice location for us to actually kind of give those people who are on the KMP trail an opportunity to take another breath or to sit back and relax with a picnic or something for a small fee, or you can actually kind of bargain with Frontenac County to have facilities put there. And then finally, another piece of property. This one has problems because this piece of property actually has a sunken gas tanks in it. And I feel as though they should be removed because the property is our responsibility. If it is removed, you know, at that point in time, we can do the assessment to find out if there has been any painting. But again, you're running into the fact that if there is any painting done, that will become evident when the tanks are actually taken out. Because it's not going, people aren't buying it based on the situation. And I know that the township actually has a site right across the road from it. So it might be that you could build something like the Natural Heritage Center there. And I know that they're expanding with quite a bit of material. So those were just some of the ideas that I had with regards to, you know, the land that's being sold here, that have been left for taxes in arrears. And I know that if this goes to a vote, I'd like to see it recorded just so that it's easier to find in the minute.
Thank you, Ms. Willis. Council, any questions? Councillor Fowler?
Yeah, I think some of your information is not accurate regarding the Robertsville site. The uranium mine wasn't near there. That's where the uranium mine protest took place.
Sorry, Councilor Fowler. My understanding was that it was actually in the Crown land that it was done, which is right beside it, but I'm not quite sure. I know that there was, I know that the main reason that people aren't interested in it is because of the uranium tainting.
There's a little more than that. Go ahead,
A
Councillor
little
Fowler.
more than that.
Yeah.
There is a mine, if you turn your mic off when I'm speaking, we won't get the feedback. There is a mine site way in the back, and they had, what they were mining out of there was thermalite and talc. The buildings, there were buildings on that site that processed these things. The talc is, it's a lot of times is affected by this thermalite. Thermalite is a form of asbestos. And that means that site, as far as I'm concerned, and from the information I received, I believe that whole site is not suitable for development because of that. It would take too much to clean it up. You'd have to have somebody come in and you know, 53 acres, it's almost impossible. But the local people have told me that that's what they process there. And that was working when I first moved up in here, because I remember the building and they only ran it a couple times a week or a month. So I think the whole site is not suitable for anything. And it's like the gas station. It costs a lot of money to take out a tank and clean up the ground around it. So it wouldn't be worth the township taking that kind of a risk on that sort of thing.
else? So I'm a little difficult position here, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that council's looked at this twice. Even considering severing off maybe the southeast corner because it was closest to the highway, or which is 519. It's probably the least contaminated area if it is contaminated. And both times we said that the risk of this is way too high. The costs are just phenomenal. Like a new Terra system is $1.5 million. You want them smaller, I don't know what that would be. But we'd be there for a long time. There is no upper end to us. And for $250,000 or $210,000, like we don't own this site. It's owned by somebody else and that's one of the reasons we're trying to sell it, to get the taxes back. We'd be better off to spend $200,000 on the site somewhere else that we know is clean and then develop it. And the Housing Advisory Task Force did look at it as well in depth with the same type of lens and said, no, the risk is just too great. We're only a $7.8 million corporation. We could easily blow $1 million plus on that and have nothing out of it. And all you need is somebody put a development on there and somebody come along, well, you're sitting on asbestos or you're sitting on uranium, or there was a magnetite mine across the road as well. I also want to address the other two. The idea of that wedge at the corner of Shiner Road, that's a good idea, except that's got have you seen the site? No, it's a rock ridge that goes like this, it starts and goes back. So you can't do anything with it, but the KNP people, the trail people are planning on building, well, there is picnic tables at the boat launch at the river and Snow Road. And they're planning on extending the KNP to the community center later this year. So that's that. And Councilor Fowler covered the idea of the gas tank one out on South Levant Road. We've talked to some of the locals who lived in the area and they have gas in their water. So that basically means that the land under that is probably contaminated with just not taking out a couple of tanks or a tank. It's a lot more extensive. Well, someone may want to do that because it might have commercial potential. But, you know, this council said, no, we want to sell it. That one council almost wanted to give it away. So there you go. So anyway, anybody else at Councilor Inglis?
One of Kelly's points was that we have a moral responsibility to clean up these sites, which were contaminated by private corporations or individuals. So to me, that's the really interesting question. And I agree that we're a small corporation. We can't really afford to do this, but the question remains is, what is our responsibility in this issue?
We take ownership. We own the problem. And that's the reason we're trying to sell it. Okay. Resolution, Sarah, please.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor Hodge. Be resolved that council receives for information the presentation from Kelly Willis entitled Robertsville Site Land for Sale, and thanks her for her time spent today.
In favor of the resolution? Resolution is carried. Thank you, Ms. Wells. Okay, that takes us to item 8, the adoption of the minutes.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor Hodge. Be resolved the council adopts the minutes as circulated of a public meeting of council dated June 11th, regular meeting of council dated June 11th, and a regular meeting of the Personnel and Audit Committee dated June 29th, 2020.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. We have no business arising. Communications of interest, section A items.
Moved by Councillor Hodge, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be resolved the council receives for information section A items of the clerk's administrative report entitled Communications of Interest.
In favor? Carried. We have no section B items. 11A. Do we have a presentation, please? Okay, thank you. Okay. Recommendation report for the 2026 housekeeping zoning bylaw amendment.
Moved by Councillor Hodge, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be resolved the council receives for information the planning report from Dimitri Karlovich, Senior Planner, County of Frontenac, regarding the administrative housekeeping amendment for zoning bylaw 5519, file number Z326, and that council approves the proposed amendments as per attachment 1, and that council determines that in accordance with section 3417 of the Planning Act, no further notice is required prior to the passage of the bylaw, and the council will consider a bylaw to amend the township's comprehensive zoning bylaw 5519 later in the meeting.
Comments, questions? In favor? Carried. Item 11B, brine tank replacement at the Plevna Yard, which is here.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hodge. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Plevna Ward 2 Brine Tank Replacement. And the council authorizes the Public Works Manager to proceed with the purchase of the replacement calcium brine storage tank at the Plevna Ward 2 garage. And the council instructs the treasurer to transfer the cost of $34,000 from the Infrastructure Sustainability PCA Reserve Fund.
Counselor Good?
Yeah, I see in here that it's possibility the sun deteriorated it. Is there a chance that we should be putting covering over this to keep the sun off that tanks and the other tanks we have?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, through you. That would be the plan here at Ward 2 when we replace it, probably move it up next to the sand shed and a short section of roof to cover it and shade it.
Counselor Fowler?
Curiosity, what do you use the brine for?
So up till now, the brine's been used for pre-wetting salt and sand for winter maintenance. And on our hardtop roads, the trucks are equipped with brine tanks and spray nozzles, so it's applied to the material when we put it on the road. And this summer, we'd used flaked calcium chloride for dust control. This season, we switched to liquid, and it's brought in by tankers and applied. So we used to spend 25,000 a year on flake, and then we had to apply it. This year we spent about 20, and they delivered it and applied it, and it's been doing a better job. So we can store it in the tanks, and council previously approved a new slip-in tank for one of our trucks. So we use it as a water truck, and we'll be able to apply the liquid from these tanks for dust control as well. So they'll be used year round now.
Anyone else? Chair? Oh, sorry, in favor of the resolution? My apologies. Get carried. Item C, Public Works Manager, increased funding for the action plan at the Cashel-Wackamack Way site.
Moved by Counselor Hodge, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Increased Funding for Action Plan at the Cashel-Wackamack Way site. And the council approved increasing the approved budget amount for the 2026 contingency plan work from $20,000 to $25,000. And that the additional $5,000 will be transferred from the operating contingency reserve, and that the Public Works Manager will provide an update to council addressing the project status and cost to date at a future meeting.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item D, septic reinspection program, budget request for 2026.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Hodge. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Septic Reinspection Program Budget Request for 2026. And the council approves an additional $1,300 to complete a maximum of 20 additional inspections during the 2026 season beyond the 15 additional inspections previously approved by the Chief Administrative Officer at a cost of $975. And that the additional cost totaling $2,275 will be taken from the operating contingency reserve, and the council is pleased with the increasing interest in the program.
Comments? Councilor Hoodle or Deputy Mayor Hoodle?
So I think this is a great news story. Through the Environmental Task Force and NFLAA, they've been really pushing that. We see it already from last year, the increased of volunteer septic inspections, and this is great, and we should approve this ask, and possibly the next council can look at increasing the budget for next year because we're seeing an increase in this.
We've been working with the lake associations to support this, and they have. And this past Saturday, I was at the Mazenau Property Owners Association, and they are really pleased with what we've done and the results of the program. In fact, our neighbors to the west were there, and some of the residents called us a leader and said, "Where were you guys?" So it's rather interesting to be in that category. So any further comments? In favor of? Carried. Short-term rental licensing research.
Moved by Counselor Hodge, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council receives the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Short-Term Rental Licensing Research. And the council instructs the clerk to work with a consultant to complete an estimated timeline and business case on the estimated cost to implement and maintain a short-term rental licensing program, and that the cost to have a consultant prepare a business plan be taken from the operating contingency reserve up to a maximum of $7,500.
Comments? Sure.
So since I wrote this report, I did get an estimate to complete this work, and the estimate came in at $15,000. So I would request that we change this maximum amount to 15,000 councils moving this forward.
Councillor Inglis.
My understanding is it's a two-stage process. The first stage was to do a business case. That's the part that went from whatever it was, 5 to 15. And so what's going to happen at stage 2?
Yeah, so again, when I wrote this report, I didn't have time to do the full, because we had the meeting on Tuesday and I had to do the report on Friday. We haven't even went out yet to ask what the cost would be to do the consultation on implementing the bylaw.
I guess when the environmental task force brought this to council, the impression was that had a document with some ideas in place, and it wouldn't take a heck of a lot more work for staff to put something together. So we were wrong about that. This has turned into a bit more of a monster than anybody thought. So I guess the question for us here is, was it worth proceeding with or not?
Haig.
Was there an RFP issued? Did you get 3 quotes or just with dealing with one consultant and that's it? With nothing?
So if council approves this, we will do the 3 quotes. But I didn't have time to do that. Plus, it wasn't a lot of value if you're not looking to move forward. So if this is approved, we will do the 3 quotes for step 1 and then bring that information back, and then you can decide on that whether or not you want to proceed with step 2.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
So Tara, the $15,000, it was just an estimate from a consultant, so we haven't gone to 3 quotes. So it's quite possible that it could be 10,000 or 7,000. You're just asking for approval of a maximum of 15. Right. It's just in case it comes at 15.
Will that be
Yeah.
enough?
Well,
I'm serious. Do we need 16 or 17?
Again, when we get those quotes, because we put together a proposal of what we want the quotes on. If it's above the maximum, we'd have to come back to the service request, but it wasn't budgeted.
Councillor Haig.
So do we have to put any figures in the resolution? Let's just ask staff to prepare 3 quotes and bring them back to council. And if it's 5 or 50, then we decide how to proceed. I don't see a reason to put a cap or put any figures in that resolution. Personal opinion.
We do that. Does that cause you a problem? Okay, so we're directing you to go ahead and. Okay, can you rewrite the resolution to that effect? We identified initially well over 200 STRs. $1,000 first year, the lesser amount of licensing. That's $200,000+. You're going to need staff, you're going to need at least 1 staff, you're going to need probably a bylaw officer part-time or whatever. There's still dollars and cents there. We talked about a MAT tax several months ago, and this might be a whole lot better. Councilor Good?
Those numbers are not likely exactly accurate either, and if we do implement this, those numbers are gonna drop off and they're gonna go under the table. They're not gonna go with the licensing at all. So I don't think those numbers will be very accurate at all, maybe half of that.
Yeah, but that's the reason for the bylaw officer. Counselor Inglis.
By agreeing to this, we're implicitly agreeing to the future expenditure of a larger. No point doing stage one unless you kind of think you're gonna do stage two. But on the other hand, I think we are seeing an increased demand and I think it will increase in future years. And this should ultimately be revenue neutral.
Go ahead.
Be it resolved that council receives the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Short-Term Rental Licensing Research. And the council instructs the clerk to obtain 3 quotes to have a consultant complete a business case for the short-term rental licensing program and report back to council.
In favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so we're looking at road allowance closure approval in principle, Sinoski.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Hudel, second by Councillor Herman. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Road Allowance Application for Approval in Principle, Sosnovsky, and that council approves in principle the application to close Stop Up and Sell part of the road allowance is described below. Part of an old township road described as part of Lot 26 Southwest Range, Geographic Township of Clarendon, being Part 2 on 13R 23343. And the council instructs the clerk to complete the remainder of the public notice in accordance with the sale of land policy and once completed to provide a road closing bylaw to council for their consideration.
Comments? In favor? Carried. 11G, road allowance between lots, closure and bylaw. Schnorr.
Moved by Councillor Farmer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Road Allowance Closure, Sale and Bylaw Schnorr, and that as required by the sale of land policy, the following be declared as surplus and sold to the adjoining owners. All that part of the road allowance between lots 25 and 26 in the Northeast Range, in the Geographic Township of Clarendon, Township of North Frontenac, County of Frontenac, being Part 2 on Registered Plan 13R 23551. And the council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to stop, close, and sell this portion of the road allowance.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item 11H, assumption of assumption of portions of Buckshot Lake Road.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Hudel, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Assumption of Portions of Buckshot Lake Road, and that council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to dedicate and assume portions of Buckshot Lake Road as noted in the report. And the council instructs the clerk to have the municipal solicitor register the bylaw against each of the properties.
Comments? In favor? Carried. 11I, road closure, approval in principle, Branston Hermer.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager and public works manager's administrative report entitled Road Allowance Application for Approval in Principle, Branston Hermer, and that council approves in principle the application to close, Stop Up and Sell part of the road allowance described below. Part of the road allowance described as part of Lot 31 Southwest Range and Northeast Range, Geographic Township of Clarendon, Township of North Frontenac, being parts 3, 4, and 5 on Registered Plan 13R 23424. And that council approves accepting the transfer of parts 1 and 2 on Registered Plan 13R 23424 from the Hermers, with the applicant's lawyer completing the legal work for the transfers for signing by the mayor and clerk and transferring them to Hermer and Branston respectively at the time of transferring parts 3, 4, and 5. And the council instructs the clerk to complete the remainder of the public notice, including parts 1 and 2, in accordance with the sale of land policy, and once completed to provide a road closing bylaw to council for their consideration.
Comments? In favor? Carried. 11J, update on Clarendon Central Public School, virtual meeting with the Limestone District School Board.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Hudel, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information Deputy Mayor Hudel's administrative report entitled Update from Deputy Mayor Roy Hudel regarding Clarendon Central Public School virtual meeting with Limestone District School Board. And the council will continue to advocate for Clarendon Central Public School by sending a follow-up letter to the board and our elected school board representative, Trustee McGregor.
So we got a little bit of good news today. I received, and so did parent council, an email from the superintendent of Limestone District School Board. They are going to increase the EA position from 0.5 to 1.0. So that's a full-time position. They're not going to change the teacher position value as of yet, but they they will look at the numbers again in August and see where it goes there. Now, I also talked to the parent council representative today, and they would just like us to hold off on a support letter and see what happens over the summer, and then they will contact council again to see if we have to, if they would want another support letter from us, depending what they ask for.
Good news, thank you. In favor? Sorry. No. They are.
And while we're waiting for that, when the council, on the parent council meeting, came and did their delegation, I had asked to look at somehow controlling the speed in Levna by the school. So I'd asked Darwin, and I know you don't have anything ready today, but something that would be nice to have in place before the school year starts in September. Maybe we can look at that.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council agrees we can look at options for that.
Leave that with you, CAO.
Amendment reads, and that council will continue to advocate for Clarendon Central Public School and will follow up when requested by parent council.
In favor? Carried. So we have the external committees now, Joint Fire Committee.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Hudel, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the minutes of the Joint Fire Committee dated February 13th, 2026.
Comments? In favor? Carried. The Committee of Adjustment and Planning Advisory Committee.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment Planning Advisory Committee dated May 25th, 2026.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item 12C, Joint Health and Safety Committee.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Hudel, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved the council receives for information the minutes of meetings of the Joint Health and Safety Committee held January 12th, 2026 and April 14th, 2026.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item 12D, Economic Development Task Force.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hudel. Be it resolved the council receives for information the notes of a meeting of the Economic Development Task Force dated June 15th, 2026.
Comments? Councilor Haig.
Just a question to the EDTF. Is the youth entrepreneur proposal just canceled now, forwarded all to the what's called the is it forwarded to the Frontenac services? Is that it? And we're not taking any?
No, we received a presentation from FSC, Frontenac, FBS, Frontenac Business Services. It's very interesting. We have to decide as a task force what to do with it next. There were an awful lot of programs that were presented to us as possibility. Some of those may involve council approval. But we have to discuss in detail what's feasible. Given that there's about 3 months left for secure existence of this task force. But a lot of ideas were presented. It was a very valuable presentation. It's not dead.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Just a little clarification on Councillor Ingles there. So we did receive their presentation. A lot of things that, Mike, that you had asked for is already done by that organization. And I think what we had decided at the time that we would promote what they do to get it out more into the community.
I understood that. I read that in the minutes of the EDTF, but the proposal had several other branches or things that can be done here locally only. But if the EDTF thinks this is the way to go, fine. I'm just clarifying if there are any other steps or this is just it. This is where it's going. That's
Okay, in favor of the resolution? Carried. Does anyone wish to give notice of motion? Seeing none, we have no motions that were previously given. Council portfolio verbal reports. Of course, I have to find them. Okay, so the mayor is up first. My portfolio has been rather busy. June the 15th, attended the Claremont Volunteers Meet and Greet at Claremont Hall. Attended the Frontenac Business Services AGM in Sydenham on June the 16th, and that's the one we're just talking about. They actually mentioned that I was there from North Frontenac and they were really pleased. The County Council on the 17th of June, attended the Astronomy Club breakfast on Saturday, June the 20th. Was a speaker at the event to celebrate the opening of the Northbrook Lions Club, or Land Lakes Lions Club, the Emergency Center in Northbrook. It's quite the facility and they've done a great job. Really interesting, and we need to make sure that we keep them in mind if and when we ever need them. Because they're ready to go almost on a moment's notice where we would have to sort of mobilize. Okay, I met with John Livernois from the NFLAA. We had a special county council meeting on June the 29th. Attended the Mazenod Property Owners Association meeting, their AGM on July the 11th. I have on June the 8th, which was yesterday, we had a Housing Advisory Task Force meeting. I have a Bryan Municipal Services meeting tomorrow morning. And on July the 21st, Brooke and I, and Corey was available, I understand he's not, we have a meeting with the Alto rep in person. So that's okay. So that's good. Okay, so, oh yeah, and today I went to the Mississippi Madawaska Land Trust grand opening of their Arid River or Arid Creek Land Trust acquisition or nature reserve. It's really interesting. Remember that communications tower at Quackenbush, off of Quackenbush Road? It's right beside, I parked on the entrance going into that tower. And Quackenbush, this is for Darwin. I drove down to the end. I didn't know we did it all the way to the end. It's not a bad road. And I met two people, it's narrow, but I met two people and who were ATVing the snowmobile trails. So it's nice to see that. And everybody's really complimentary to us and our staff and what we're doing. So that's good. Okay, Councillor Good.
Yes, I had to cancel my Cache Lake Association meeting for Saturday. And personal reasons. And I've had quite a few short road closures in my going, but that's pretty well all I got.
Councillor Haig.
Let's see if this works. Okay, so I attended the health team board meeting of June. Things are going well. The new doctor is still very happy, very excited coming in September to start work here. There are no other issues that to share with the council. And I will be attending Saturday's Cash Lake Association, see if, that's it, nothing else. Yeah. Roy?
Corey?
So just to add to Councillor Hodges, I did get an invitation today for you guys for the new doctor luncheon and a signing. It was scheduled for September 1st, but they have to change the date. So I'm waiting for a new date, so I will get that off to you. So the August meeting will have the, I was working on the agreement today for the new doctor, so I'll have that for you back at the August meeting for signing bylaws. So the mayor and the celebration for the new doctor, which is awesome. So
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Mike, just, I know he doesn't start until September, but is he here already now? Is the new doctor here already living in?
I don't have that information, but I don't think so based on our meeting with him at the time. His wife was expecting, so I don't think he's in the country at the
Deputy Mayor Hoodle.
This Monday, I have a MVCA board meeting, so I'll report at the next, council meeting. We have not heard anything about who's going to be taking over for the CEO as the Regional Conservation Authority. We were told that we should hear by the end of July, so there's nothing really more to go on with that and part of the transition team. As far as Lake Association meetings, I've been at a few. I'll be on Saturday at Kashawakamak and Sunday at Buckshot.
Councillor Hermer.
I have nothing to report, but I do have a question. At the May meeting, I put in a notice requesting clarification on amendments to bylaws under housekeeping rules. That report hasn't come back to council yet. Did I ask when we can expect it?
So I am just waiting on the solicitor to review it. I sent it to him, but they're very busy.
Well, I find that rather strange because at the same meeting, the mayor had a notice too. And the same party could have provided that same information to my request that provided it to his.
It kind of is what it is right now. I mean, they are really busy. It's, you know, this is what it is. We've spent tremendous amounts of money on legal fees this year as well. So Tara will follow up with that and make sure that, you know, see if we can push their buttons a little. Councillor Fowler.
There's no EOTA meeting this month. They're gonna have continue on later in the year. As far as the lake associations, I might be able to attend the Palmerston Lake Association meeting. For seniors and law enforcement together, we had a meeting this morning. We were going through our agendas to find out what we're going to be doing. In October, there will be a presentation in Snow Road. And in January, there'll be a presentation in Ompa. We haven't picked the topics yet, but we'll let everybody know. We'll get the posters out. The other months are taken up by Central Frontenac, so we have presentations to do in those places as well. For the Frontenac Ontario OPP meeting, the next meeting will be August 20th, and I'll be able to attend that. Thank you.
Councillor Inglis.
Nothing to report except that, Palmerston Lake. Well, Councillor Fowler and myself, I can't attend because, same day as Summerfest. So I hope you can make it, Fred. I've yet to hear from Mosque, Cananto, Sunday.
No, I haven't heard from Sunday. I'm going to Palmerston too. I was talking to
Thank you.
Joan, whatever her name was
Hey,
this morning. Yes, talked to her this morning.
thank you.
All right, that takes us to item 16. Action and reading of bylaws.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Hudel, seconded by Councillor Hermer, Be resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce the following bylaws that have been circulated to all members of council. Bylaw 2026-38, road closing Chenor. Bylaw 2026-39, zoning bylaw amendment housekeeping. And bylaw 2026-40 to establish portions of Buckshot Lake Road as highway, and that these bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Comments? In favor? Passed. Okay, that brings us to item 17, public forum. Is there anyone in the council chamber wishes to make a comment or ask questions about today's agenda? Ms. Willis?
So one of the things that I wanted to discuss is communications of interest. For instance, I've been receiving the packages that you've been receiving with regards to the content that's been listed on the agenda. I've asked the staff to post them on the website, but they denied that request, which is acceptable. But I feel as though it would be important for us as a community to receive those postings or those initiatives that are being provided to council. For instance, I was at a SOS presentation that Art Hannigan had done. Councillor Fowler was there. It was quite nice. It was based on AI and how to access information. And he used an example with the ChatGPT, asked for the schematics, a blueprint for a small shed. And what was nice about it was that in the demonstration, he indicated that resources were actually used to create the shed that followed the bylaw criteria. So it was actually accessing the information that's guarantees that it will be accepted. What was also nice was that the architectural design was done, blueprints were created, and that can actually be taken to an architect. So there's a savings. The other thing that I noticed was, let me see, sorry. In one situation, the Land O'Lakes Lions Club was having a presentation with the opening of the emergency services, which I was able to attend because that was part of the communications of interest, and I was quite pleased to be able to attend that, to find out that they can house 20 people overnight in emergency situations. Another one was that there was legislative updates, and that was really good because then it kept us informed with regards to changes that were going to be occurring. Those were given to council, but not given to the public. This month, I had an opportunity to go through it. What was nice was the report that came from Mississippi Valley Conservation Area. Those minutes were quite nice. I've recognized that they don't really kind of look at if there's any problems with filtration or chemicals that are found in the streams or waters. They did give a recommendation as to how that could be taken care of. Also, number 12 in this month's communications has to do with calming of traffic measures. And I know that in Mississauga, as part of an initiative for the Mississauga Cycling Advisory Committee, we had looked at traffic calming measures. And what's really nice about that is that speed bumps are included when you actually kind of reduce the speed to ensure that those safety zones are taken seriously, especially in school zones, which came up today in the meeting. Another issue, which was presented as number 2 and number 11, was food insecurity, was initiated by another committee or a township. And I know that here in North Frontenac that the community halls are providing a very good service with regards to addressing this matter. And I just feel as though support should be given to those initiatives. One other that was kind of brought up was the number 26, which was the intimate partner violence. And that was an initiative that was taken by Mississauga. And they were looking for support in that. And I feel as though that's also an initiative that North Frontenac Township may have vested interest in.
Just on that, not every hall is providing a food service.
No, yeah, you're right,
Think
Mr.
it's
Mayor,
only
but,
one.
but they look at the service of food as being a way to provide for, the people who come into the community. So it's kind of, it's addressed that way. I know that as a teacher, often, teachers wonder at the end of the semester when the summer comes, how those students who, rely on breakfast clubs are actually going to, receive those,
Rightly so. I used to work in
yeah, to help the
community
food
housing.
insecurity, yeah. So I know that Offa's kind of taken that initiative on. And I feel as though if it's being addressed by other municipalities, that we should support their initiative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the council chamber care to make a statement? Yes, sir.
Thank you. About the road closure, I'm just wondering what the next steps are in ours. So it's the Branson Firmer, which is 2026-04, road closure, whatever.
So we do this quickly or should we have them wait till after the meeting? Okay,
Well, we have to do the second step of the public notice, so that will be putting an ad in the paper, and we need to notify Hydro Bell and Public Works Canada. And then we'll bring a bylaw to council, which should be here for the August meeting. Okay.
Thank you. So I understood from your notice or your letter to me that because there were no other parties involved other than the Firmers and ourselves, that we didn't have to do the public.
I didn't have to notify any neighbors. It's neighbors within 60 meters, and you guys are the only people in 60 meters, so no neighbors.
Okay, thank you. So the next session will be in August meeting? Thank you very much. Has it been looked at by Mr. Good? Or do I have to be in attendance? Okay. Thank you.
just about good to go. Thank you for coming in and asking. Is there anyone else? Is there anybody online wishes to ask a question or make a comment? Seeing none? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We now go into a closed session, which we have to clear the council chamber for. Thank you very much. So we will take a break till 6:55, 7 minutes.
Moved by Councillor Hermers, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hudel. Be it resolved, the council retires to closed session at 6:49 PM to adopt minutes of a closed session of council dated June 11, 2026, and a closed session of the Personnel and Audit Committee dated June 29, 2026, to discuss items subject to advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege and personal matters about identifiable individuals, more specifically confidential complaint, and discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Okay, 7 minutes, folks. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. We're back into open session from our closed session where we discussed where we adopted minutes of a closed session of council dated June the 11th, 2026, and a closed session of the Personnel and Audit Committee dated June 29th, 2026. And we discussed items subject to advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege and personal matters of identifiable individuals, more specifically confidential complaints. and discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be resolved, the council directs the treasurer to transfer $15,000 for the deductible in regards to the Plevna Rink roof incident from the operating contingency reserve. And if funds are recuperated from the insurance company, council directs the treasurer to return the funds back to into the operating contingency reserve.
In favor? Carried. Yes, sorry, confirmatory bylaw, my apologies.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Fowler. Be resolved that bylaw 2026-41, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council for its regular meeting held July 9th, 2026, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
In favor? Carried. Adjournment.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council adjourns the meeting at 7:30 PM until August 13th, 2026, or at the call of the chair.
Alex? In favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone. I still got